Hello, hello. Good evening. Good evening, everyone, or good morning in some parts of the world, Australia, New Zealand. Good afternoon, perhaps, somewhere else. If you're watching later, happy time of day, whatever it is. So glad to see you here. Give everybody a moment to come on in. Hope you have been well. Give me a little wave. Let me know where you're watching from. Hope you had a good weekend. I'll tell you a little bit about mine. I've got a quote for us. I got a question of the day for us. And as always, I'd love to know what's on your mind. If there's anything good that's happened in your life, if there's anything that you'd like to talk about, any questions you'd like to ask. Morning in Malaysia. Hey, what's up? I'm going to do a webinar in Malaysia. What is it? It's Friday morning U.S. time. So whatever time that will be in Malaysia. I'm looking forward to that. Good to see you here. John Jantsch, what's up, man? Good to see you. Duct tape marketing. I've learned a lot from John. Be sure you follow him if you're not following him already. Of course, everybody already is because he's awesome. Katy Texas, hello. You beast, thanks. I'm doing what I can. Appreciate it. Hello from Toronto. I have a fun story about Toronto, actually. It's doing breakfast TV early this morning. Chris Moore, what's up, man? Good to see you. That says this is pause per reconnecting. Hopefully you can still hear me. So let me know if you're out there. 9 p.m. in Malaysia. That's great. So my question of the day is, and as always, feel free to jump in with anything. One thing I was wondering, I talked about this morning on YouTube. Is there anything that has been surprisingly enjoyable during this time or season? Anything that you have thought was going to be difficult and it actually ended up being something that you enjoyed or looked forward to or found some unexpected appreciation for? Now there's lots of stuff, of course, that's difficult, frustrating, annoying, even worse than that. But is there anything that you have found surprisingly enjoyable? I would love to know, and I'll share my answer with you as well. So feel free to share that in the answer. Thanks for all the waves. Hello, everybody. So about the comments, I love to hear comments. I try to respond to as many as I can, and then if I'm not able to respond to your comment, I always go back later at the end just to kind of read them, and that then informs what I do next for these live streams. So it's very much a participatory experience, just like the new YouTube thing that I'm doing in the morning. And well, I guess just like life, right? Like we're all in a participatory experience in life at the moment. So is there anything that you have found to be surprisingly enjoyable during this time that you were like, what? Did not expect that, but I actually am liking that. I'll share my answer, and I also heard a bunch of answers this morning on YouTube that I thought were interesting. I've been thinking about ever since. So this morning for me, oh, thank you for the hearts, you're kind. This morning I got up at 3:30, I believe, to be on Breakfast Television Toronto. BT is a really big show there. I think it's one of the biggest morning shows, and I have been on Breakfast Television Toronto multiple times before, but always when I'm in Toronto, like at the studio. And so the funny thing about Eastern time is, well, first of all, the funny thing about morning shows is they tend to start in the morning, also really early in the morning. So my call time was like, I don't know, 6:45 Eastern for a segment that would begin a little bit after 7, sometime in that range. So being on the West Coast, that is 3 hours back. So that's like 3:45 that I had to do a little Skype test, with the producer. And of course I have to like actually get up and put on clothes and look like I'm excited, because morning TV is all about being excited. Morning TV is like, you're supposed to be on, like you can be like, beforehand you can be like totally out of it. But then once they go to the camera, you're like, yeah, so excited, right? So I did that this morning at 3:30. So if anybody saw me, let me know if I did a good job at that. Welcome, everybody. Hey, Michelle. It's Michelle Polar from Hello Fears. Good to see you. I did an Instagram Live with Michelle last week. She's got a book coming out. I'm very excited about. Is it 2 weeks, I think, Michelle? I'm going to talk about that as we get closer. Let me know if you have any comments or questions. Oh, you caught my BT interview this morning. Awesome. Very cool. Thank you. So did you find anything, have you found anything to be surprisingly enjoyable? Someone says, I love eating a lot of garlic. So did you just discover that? Like just now? Someone said, I never knew I had a knack for Hollywood movies. For watching them or for being in them? That's pretty cool. Never expected it, but it's happening. Instagram crashed. Okay, cool. I'm glad Instagram came back. Getting more sleep, Gary Ware. Hey, what's up, Gary? Good to see you as well. All my friends are here. And Ellen Vela says, I've always been a gym girl. I'm really liking exercising at home now. That has been a little bit of a challenge for me. I am mostly a runner, so I have been doing a lot of running, which is good. But I do also like doing some cross training, some stuff in the gym, some like high intensity stuff, which I know you can do everywhere, but for me, I guess I've always had this like gym pattern with it, so it's been a little bit of a challenge, but fortunately I can run, so I've been doing that. That's great. Anything else here? Just scrolling down. I miss traveling, but I found time meeting a lot of people. Yeah, so many online meetings and such, you know, I mean, like, that's just insane. I saw SNL did like a Zoom call skit. Hi from Turkey. Awesome design, getting to know your neighbors more, hanging out on our driveways and chatting. Is there a way to still hustle during this pandemic? Yeah, let's talk about that. I'm gonna put that on my list. A way to still hustle. Courageous King Winter Warrior. Great name, by the way. So for me, what I thought was, I was like, well, I've actually really been enjoying this. I don't even know if I want to call it a virtual tour, because it's more just, these are a series of conversations. Like, I am talking, you know, more or less about my new book, The Money Tree, which is now 6 days old. And so it's really fun to talk with people about the lessons from the book and what they're learning and if they're enjoying it and why I wrote the book and all that kind of stuff. But I think the broader thing is, you know, to talk about how we're in this time of uncertainty and what does it mean for us and what are the opportunities that we can take advantage of. What was that question? How can we hustle during the time of the pandemic? How can we build a world that we want to live in, both now and in the future when we all come out of this? Because that's my objective is to come out of this time better than I was before. And I think that's possible. I think times of disruption and disorder and chaos and even trauma are often precursors to growth. And I've seen that personally, and I think we're going to see it societally as well. But let's come back to that question. So I have been enjoying just, you know, not being on the road every day and not going to 40 cities, even though I was looking forward to that. But I feel a lot more caught up. I feel like I begin a lot fewer emails with the sentence, hey, I'm so sorry for the delay in reply, which is how I begin like 90% of my emails, and I hate that. But I haven't been doing that as much lately. I feel a little bit more in control. I do feel like healthier just because, you know, I have the chance to eat at regular hours for the most part and not traveling every day. So that's been good. And I noticed earlier when I asked on YouTube, by the way, welcome everybody. It's good to see you all. Thanks for coming in. If we haven't talked before, I'm Chris Guillebeau. I'm the author of this new book, The Money Tree, and some other stuff. And I'm doing these mostly daily conversations just to kind of show up and chat with people wherever they're at. So the question that I asked earlier was, is there anything that has surprised you during this time, positively surprised you, anything that you have found unexpectedly enjoyable? So if you have an answer to that, feel free to jump in. Just see if I missed anything. Awesome, cool. And I have a quote that I want to read to you as well. So this is a quote that I put in my newsletter this morning. If you don't read my newsletter, you can subscribe at chrisguillebeau.com. I'm actually getting on track with a more regular schedule with the newsletter like I used to be. And it is something that used to be very important to me, and then I kind of fell off the wagon, and now I'm back on it, so it's good. Fell off the train, whatever the expression is. So the quote I used was, and here we go, this is from Ingmar Bergman. The quote is, only someone who is well prepared has the ability to improvise. So only someone who is well prepared has the ability to improvise. And I thought, why did I think of that this morning in the context of, I think I was sharing a little bit about like why I wrote the new book or the process of writing fiction, because I'm still teaching through this book, but it's fiction. I've created a universe of characters who are going through struggles, one main character in particular. And, you know, he's going through a lot of financial struggle, which is very relevant to a lot of people. And how does he navigate those obstacles? How does he find his way out and such? And so I was thinking about the context of like what it was like for me to write a novel, because I'd never done that before. I've written 6 how-to books, and you know, how-to books are usually based on nonfiction. Fun fact. So this is my first time to write fiction, and it was like only someone who's well prepared has the ability to improvise. I don't want to say like I'm an amazing writer or something, but the experience of writing a lot of other books and the experience of being a reader definitely helped me feel a lot more prepared to write this book. And then I also spent a lot of time writing it. I also wrote 7 or 8 drafts of it. For any other writers or authors out there, let me know how many drafts of your books you write, because I don't ever do 7 or 8. This is the only time. I think most of my books have been like 3 drafts, maybe a little bit of polish on the 4th one. But this was like 7 complete drafts. So there was a lot of preparation that led to the ability to improvise. And now I'm trying some different stuff, and I'm gonna apply this to you, by the way. It's not just about me. I'm trying different stuff like the YouTube, and that is something that I have a lot less experience with. And so I am less prepared. I am less good at it. Like, I know that going into it, but I also know that I always encourage people to start before they're ready. It's exactly what I did. And so my goal is to kind of get better and better each day and learn a little bit more about the technical part of it, as well as just the, all the different elements of it. And so I'm trying to become well prepared so that I can improvise more, because I think that is the goal, to like know the rules and then break the rules. Now, as it applies to you, well, we're all in this time of forced improvisation, and forced improvisation, forced disruption, and generalized uncertainty and generalized unpredictability as well. And the theme that I have been exploring in a lot of my work and just in my own life the past few weeks is, what opportunity does that then produce? And we know that there's lots of negative effects. I'm not trying to make light of that, but what are the positive effects? What unexpected surprises can we find? Like I mentioned earlier, like, what have you found unexpectedly or surprisingly enjoyable during this time? And something that a lot of people said earlier was, they all mentioned something about, like, the world seems a little bit slower. Like, I'm walking outside, and in some ways it's creepy. It's like weird because it's so empty and quiet. But in other ways it feels very, meditative, or contemplative, or it's just like a heightened sense of awareness in some degree. Or I'm paying more attention to my neighbors. I'm thinking more. I'm taking more time for myself, people said. I thought that was interesting, because I know that there are a lot of people who are panicked during this time and really worried and anxious and feeling desperate. And I think those are all like understandable, emotions and responses. But I also know that we don't usually make good decisions when we're feeling panicked. And when we're in a place of desperation, then we don't make good decisions. And so whatever you can do to kind of remove yourself from that immediate sense of panic, and immediate sense of like, oh my God, the sky is falling, the world is ending. Then even if you're going through a hard time, first of all, a lot of people are, which is interesting that we're all going through this at the same time in different ways. But also, you will be able to have a better path out if you can find a way to just remove the terror, the immediate panic, whatever that thing is. And then it's like, okay, what should I do? Because otherwise you tend to make kind of rash decisions, which are not helpful. So anyway, we are just talking today about unexpected, surprisingly positive, interesting things, or something that you found enjoyable that you didn't expect. I just read a quote for those who are joining. Only someone who is well prepared has the opportunity to improvise. That is by Ingmar Bergman. And for whatever you're going through your life, I'd love to know what you are improvising, how you are applying perhaps some skill or some knowledge that you've had before to a new situation, or what new skill that you might be learning, or what new knowledge you might be acquiring during this time. And also, if you have any questions for me, let me know. Oh, somebody asked me about hustling during the time of pandemic. I need to get back to that. Let's see what else you got here. Somebody says, it's easier to go inward, connect with others in nature. It's getting back to basics and finding yourself again. Yes, let me just scroll up. If I miss any comments, it's just because I'm kind of multitasking and looking at the camera. But I always go back later and read everything. Results from Action said you ordered it on Amazon. That's cool. That's my book. You ordered my book. Thank you. Mantra Medallions says I'm eating a lot of frozen pizza. They ordered a lot of frozen pizza. It's cool. Respect that. It's much more enjoyable than I remember. There is a time and a place for frozen pizza. Gary Ware said it's been a delight. People watching from my front window. Pets are winning. That's right. Awesome. So let's see. Somebody asked about what is it? How do you hustle in the time of pandemic? I mean, there's a lot we could say about that. Are you asking about like the messaging, the tone? Like, how do you if you're selling a product or a service, how do you adjust your messaging and tone in response, to the reality of the world? Is it like, what are the best opportunities right now? Like, what's something I should be like buying and selling, or what kind of service should I be offering? What are the hot industries, etc.? I really don't like to think like that. The hot industries, it's kind of like, is that helpful? I don't think it's that helpful. How else could you think about that question? Time to hustle. It could be about personal motivation. Like, how do I get the motivation to go back into that mode if things are weird or strange? But maybe let's start with, what was that first part about the messaging and tone and such? I've been seeing a little bit of conversation kind of back and forth about like whether it's okay to promote something during this time, or like if you have a product that's totally unrelated to like what's happening, how do you feel about like writing your sales letters or making sales calls or like making a pitch or something. And there are some people that are on the side of like, you know, that should not happen in any way whatsoever, because here is the, you know, urgent reality for humanity right now. And, you know, so let's say that that's over here. And then you have some people that are like, everything's normal. Just, you know, keep sending things the way that you have been, and like keep your tweets auto-scheduled, and like just ignore, you know, what's happening with the rest of the world. And I'm not usually into balance, but I think this is one of those things where it's probably good to actually be like, okay, I think it's still okay to sell stuff. Like we're still consumers. We still buy things. We need things. We need to get our groceries delivered. There's stuff that we need to do to entertain ourselves. Video game sales, entertainment is up. Netflix is up. Online education is up. I was talking with Creative Live founder Chase Jarvis last week, and he's like, our stats are way up, you know? So obviously people have needs and desires during this time, and it's totally okay to cater to that. But I do think it's also, you know, wise and appropriate to just be cognizant and aware of the fact that, you know, things are not normal now. And so if you can I think it just starts with acknowledging that. Just the very first step is like, hey, look, there's something that's happening right now that's taking up a lot of people's, you know, energy and mindset and fear and everything, like every part of their brain, their emotions. But, you know, this might help, or, you know, you still need to, I don't know, whatever it is that you need to do, whatever you need to buy. I think there's still a way to do it in terms of that. I might have a whole separate episode about that at some point on my new YouTube channel. Let's do a couple more questions, then I will sign off for the night. It's good to see you all again, by the way. I didn't do any live streams over the weekend, but I'll be back doing them probably every day this week, usually around this time. John Jantsch said he's doing porch concerts. That's pretty cool. You should live stream those. Maybe you already are. I would tune in for sure. Carrie's Adventures in Wonderland, great handle, by the way. I started an over-the-phone book club with my friend who lives in a senior retirement home. She's 96 years young. That's so beautiful. I'm so glad you're doing that. That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Everybody should do that. Monster Medallions with the frozen pizza, also using bartending skills to make margaritas for people in the neighborhood. Very cool. Sending them down to street level via pulley system from my 3rd floor apartment. I love that. That is so cool. Very fun. Fair Trade Jen, I think showing compassion is helpful in business. Amazing, absolutely. Empathy is a very underrated business skill. And I don't mean that, hopefully that's not going to be taken out of context. I'm not saying like be empathetic to sell more. I'm just saying when you practice empathy, you build relationship and trust with people. And that is, you know, ultimately helpful for your business and for them. That's all I mean by that. All right, 1 or 2 more questions and we will wrap up. Thank you so much for joining tonight. Prana B. Gaba says, what are the hot industries to be in during this pandemic? So earlier I was like, hot industries, that's a weird phrase. And I'm the one who used the phrase, so it's my fault, not yours. I think you have to look and see what do people want? What do they want more of? What are they unable to get? And what is a substitution for that? Those are a few things that are starting points to like what the jumping off direction is. How are people's lives different now than they were 2 months ago, 1 month ago, 1 week ago, etc. And so from there, you can make a number of observations. I mentioned online education. Talking with my friend Chase Jarvis, he's like, stats are way up. Not shocking, right? So anything with online education, anything with remote work, broadly speaking. So there's a lot of stuff to do with remote work. It's not just like, you know, it's not just like how to use Zoom, which by the way is a powerful thing. Like I talked in the YouTube series last week. I found this guy whose YouTube channel, I forget what it was called. Sorry, I got a stand that's falling over there, but it's gonna be fine. He was making all these how-to tech videos. This is a cool story. He was making all these how-to tech videos about various kinds of software. And he was pretty good. Like he was getting like a few hundred views, a few thousand views on his videos. He'd made like, I don't know, 50 or something. A couple of them had done well with like 20,000 views. And then he makes a video, how to use Zoom, you know, and that video is like 1 million views, you know, on YouTube in a very short period of time. And so then he gets, you know, he's smart about it. He like deconstructs it. And so his next series of videos are all like subsets of that. like how to use breakout rooms, in Zoom, how to screen share using Zoom, like what are some best practices, like all that kind of stuff. So that's like the surface level, like remote work, this particular software, et cetera. But it's good to go deeper and say, okay, if people are working remotely now, what is difficult for them? It's not just how to use this software. What's difficult is a lot of adjustment. Adjustment to being at home all the time. Maybe they're in a cramped apartment with their partner. Maybe they've got kids there as well. What can you do to kind of, relieve that pressure, at least provide some kind of stimulus, like a margarita that comes down from the third floor apartment that Mantra Medallions is doing. Home exercise equipment is massive right now. Like there's a backlist on, Peloton and everything else like that. They're doing extremely well. So any online trainers, or any personal trainers who have kind of been actively trying to go online, not just now all of a sudden I'm going to jump online with a class, but like they were working on it for a while. They're doing really well. Liquor stores, great business at the moment. So liquor stores, comfort food, anything people seek out in a time, where they're a little bit worried or nostalgic or both. Or stressed, if you're going to stress eat. Ice cream company, I'd love to have stock in an ice cream company. So we could go on with this for a long time, but maybe you kind of see the thought process of like, 'cause that's the more important thing, is to learn this thought process, because we're not going to be in the same time 2 weeks from now or 2 months from now. But if you think this way, then you can answer that question yourself. And like I said, that's much more valuable. So we'll talk about that more as we go along. Couple more questions. Make some quarantinis. That's why I saw that phrase somewhere else recently. Quarantini. That's a great description. That's awesome. Great hair, bro. Thank you. Appreciate it. Somebody started making masks. That's awesome. I've heard from somebody else who's doing that. I'm going to actually show an example, a visual example, next couple of days. What about having a Zoom party event planner as a business idea? That's great. Somebody should do that. I was talking about being a Zoom consultant the other day, but that's even better, I think. Zoom party event planner. That's so cool, especially for anybody in the event world who is now struggling, which I know so many people are, because like their world is events, right? Their world is stuff that can't happen right now, at least not in the same way. So anybody who can help people make that transition, that's definitely a good idea. Well done. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for joining. I always enjoy this conversation. I'm learning along with you. I hope that you find it interesting and meaningful in some way, but I want you to know that I do too. So have a wonderful night. I'm going to sign off for now, or day, depending on where you are in the world, Malaysia, Australia, other folks like that. And I hope to see you tomorrow. The new book is called The Money Tree. I'm doing this YouTube series, 9 a.m. every weekday. And I'll probably be back here around the same time, 6 p.m. Pacific tomorrow. Thank you. Be well.